Hello, and welcome back to Starside Chat. We took a little bit of a break, but we're back in the heart of a pandemic. My name is Aaron. With me, as always, is Zach. Zach, how's it going?
Pretty good. I guess as good as it can be. How about you?
Pretty good. You know, I think both of us are a little bit working from home. It's been 5 months, maybe 4 months since the last time we recorded.
This is the first 2020 podcast episode we've done.
It's true.
Our last one was around Christmas break.
A very different time in the world.
Yeah.
But here we are again, and we thought, you know what? We're inside. We got nothing going on, so why not start recording the podcast again?
Yeah. Plus, we're getting close to the time that would have been E3, and so a lot of things are happening. And if there's one thing we like on this channel, it's E3.
Very prescient of you to veto my idea to have a YouTube channel just about E3 called E365, because that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't think about it, but yeah, E3 is basically non-existent this year, but there's...
Let's talk about this. We don't have this in the show notes, but we should talk about this as the first kind of thing, because it's kind of a prelude to a lot of things we're going to be discussing. Jeff Keighley announced that this summer is going to be the first summer of gaming, or what is it called?
I don't remember. I should look that up.
It's a whole summer, a 4-month period, I think, of basically elongated announcements leading up to the console launches. And basically, it's like E3, but instead of it all being compacted into like a 3 or 4 day period, it's going to be strewn randomly through the next 4 months.
It's just called Summer Games Fest.
Summer Games Fest. And we've already had the first couple Summer Games Fest things happen. But I don't know. How do you feel about this, Zach?
I mean, I am hopeful that they will come up with some sort of interesting method of delivering their upcoming games and all of that, sort of Nintendo Direct style almost. I'm sure Jeff Keighley will come up with a good way to make a show out of it, basically.
He's the ultimate showman. But I mean, I'm pro them trying to salvage what E3 was. I just wish it wasn't so stretched out and sort of there's no roadmap, really. I want a little more structure where I can say June 6th, I can get ready to sit down and watch some sort of Nintendo Direct style thing. Yeah. Whereas this, it seems like, at least with the last couple, it's sort of just like day of or day before we get something on Twitter like, hey, check this out, it's going to happen. And then it happens. And then, I mean, it's cool, but I don't know.
It's a little last second. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine.
I mean, that's true. I do like the more structured nature of E3 where, you can set your calendar by it and be like, okay, this week is when everything's happening. Let's just tune in. And you're going to have streams from these developers or whatever, or these different places. And it's going to be really cool. Now you're just more like, okay, well, Microsoft just said they're going to have a stream tomorrow, so tune in. And then,
yeah.
But, should we talk about that one? Do you want to jump to the Microsoft Inside Xbox? We don't have to talk about it much since it was 2 weeks ago or something like that.
I mean, so that was kind of the first big thing, right? Was this Inside Xbox stream where we were going to see some next gen graphics, and
it was all cinematic trailers.
It was all cinematic trailers, not a ton of gameplay. Even at the very end, they were like, hey, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla or whatever it's called.
Yeah, they were
it's
teasing that the whole show, too.
Not a lot of gameplay in that either.
Yeah, and if you recall from our E3 discussions last year, I said that even though Microsoft had a lot of trailers, they did not win E3 because all of them were cinematic trailers. So you didn't get a sense of what the games were actually like.
Yeah.
And you could tell that they had kind of done a similar thing. I think they said, I could look up the quote because I wrote a little thing on StarsideCafe.com about the Microsoft show, but David Baker, head of Xbox Global Portfolio, was on the like introducing stuff. And he basically said, because we read the interwebs, everything you see here will highlight the in-game experience with actual gameplay captured in-engine to give you the best sense of what to expect when Xbox Series X launches later this year. And of course, then it was all just like cinematic trailers. So there's like this big disagreement between gamers and like industry insiders on what it actually means to be a gameplay trailer. And like, to be fair, they've used that term for years, and it just means footage or cinematics from in the game, you know, like in the engine. Yeah. Whereas when you say gameplay to us, that means like this is what you're doing when you're controlling your character.
Yeah, you want to see some UI on screen. You want to be behind the character controlling it. You don't want like a shot of a hawk overhead, you know? Like, yeah. I don't know.
You don't want to see the camera panning around the main character and, I don't know, some sort of cutscene happening.
But so they showed some Valhalla stuff. They showed a couple other just like weird games. They showed a really gross one called Scorn, I think it was called. That's just like an H.R. Geiger type, like gross, like flesh aliens.
Was that the one that looked like it was in the Alien universe?
Yeah, and I feel like I saw a beta build of this like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was just like a guy walking through like a flesh cavern, and he picked up a gun that was like, it like shot teeth or whatever, and it was really gross, and there was like tentacles everywhere, and I guess that's still in development. I completely forgot about that. I don't even think it had a name when I watched that thing, but like a guy that I watched stream on Twitch, like got access to some, like, maybe it was an alpha, but what a weird thing to include in their like inside Xbox stream of like, you know, an initial offering of just like a super gross looking game.
Well, and the weirdest thing was the first game they showed off was this like first person shooter that at first I thought was Titanfall. And then like for a split second, because it became clear that they were like, I don't know, almost time hopping, because you're like fighting this Roman centurion looking guy. And I was like, oh, is this going to be like a Time Splitters reboot or whatever, which would have been really cool.
How big of that would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have been. But it was not. It was some game that's like already out as like a mobile game, and it's like $10 on Steam. And I mean, that might be like a prequel to the thing that's actually going to launch on the new consoles, but it's, if you go watch gameplay footage of that game that's already out, it looks bad. It does not look good at all. So, and I was listening to the Game Informer show, and they were talking about it, and Andy McNamara was like really ripping into it. It was like, why would this be the thing you lead off your glimpse of the next gen with? And I was like, yeah, you know, that's true.
All around, not great, but transitioning to the next like Summer Games Fest thing, I guess briefly we should talk about their releasing a remastered Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 that's going to be coming out in like September. And that looked pretty cool. Did you play those games as a child?
I never did. I know people loved them, and they were like all around, so you couldn't not see them wherever you went. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was never really big on skateboarding, either in real life or in video game form.
I got pretty into them just because it was fun. It was kind of like a Mario game, because you would be dropped into this world, this kingdom, you know, and there would just be like random things that you would have to do to progress, basically getting moons or stars or whatever. But you like, it had the, you know, conceit of always being on a skateboard, so you're moving around super fast. But they got like kind of experimental towards like, you know, Tony Hawk 3 and 4, where like you would like, you know, grab onto cars, and like you would run up to a person, he'd be like, hey, a monkey just ran off with my hat, you got to go get it. And you'd have to like track down a monkey, and like, I don't know, they were pretty fun, I have to say. So I'm a little bit looking forward to that. I wish it was coming to Switch, but it doesn't seem like it is.
Well, speaking of remasters that may not come to Switch, Mass Effect Remastered is being rumored again. I guess it's not official, but the rumors have been circulating again recently, because evidently in a recent EA earnings call, there was a reference to like an EA HD title. which evidently refers to remakes or remasters. And so everybody has been talking about how it's probably Mass Effect Remastered. In fact, VentureBeat actually said it was Mass Effect Remastered. But
oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if they have inside information that everybody else doesn't. And because like none of the, I don't know, the outlets that I would normally consider like the big guys that like would be in the know did not report on it, which either tells me that they don't have any information on it, so they didn't want to report something, or they have insider knowledge and they're not allowed to report on it. So I don't know which to believe, but I do want a trilogy remaster. So that, you know, I'm hopeful that.
So you would get it, and would you get it probably on PC?
Yeah, I would. Actually, I was trying to play one of the Mass Effects on PC recently, but Origin's been all messed up recently, so I've not had a good time trying to get that working. Origin needs to like work some stuff out, I think. But anyway, yeah, I would totally play that. I would really like it on Switch, but it sounds like if it comes to Switch, it would be later. So I don't know. I'm sure because EA is going to do their EA Play. They actually announced when they're doing theirs. It's on June 11th, so we'll find out then, I guess.
They famously have had not the best showings at E3s. Like, their EA plays have been like,
really bad.
Watch these two guys on stage play this like phone game against each other.
Well, and the other half of like their business is sports games and racing games, and like those are fine. They have their audience, but they're not impressive to show in like a trailer. Right. And you already know what you're going to get with them, so you almost don't even really need to do a lot of advertising for them. As long as people know, like the people that want to play them, if they know when they're coming out, like that's fine. But like that was part of the problem with the Microsoft Inside Xbox stream was like they had a long trailer for I think it was Dirt 5, and then they had like a Madden game, and it was just like, you know, if you did not tell me that these were running on the next gen console, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I would have just assumed it was current gen. So I don't know, they're not great ways to get people excited or impressed by what you have coming up. And maybe part of that is just because a lot of those are annualized. So it's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Show me something that's new that is not annualized so I can get excited. But
well, I've got something for you if that's what you're looking for. Unreal Engine 5. That was like the first part of Summer Games Fest where I was like, okay, this is something I'm legitimately excited about. Did you watch this stream they did?
I watched the trailer where it looks kind of like Tomb Raider, and there's this like character that's sort of flying and jumping off of walls and stuff, but I didn't see like the detailed breakdown. I heard there's a lot of talk of triangles though.
Yeah, so they did a couple of things. It was like 2 or 3 talking segments, and it started with these two guys, and they were like, Unreal Engine 5 is crazy for a lot of reasons, but they basically talked about like RTX, basically like ray tracing in not so many words, but they were basically like, hey, global illumination is like in Unreal Engine 5. There's no more baking light maps. It's all going to be dynamic, which is basically what ray tracing is. And like you can use cinema scale stuff. Like they zoomed in on these rocks and they were like, we can get such high fidelity. Usually like this would be used by like VFX houses to simulate this like, tumble of rocks, but we're using it just in this video game and it's not as taxing. Like it's totally, you're able to do it in your game. And they like flipped to this mode where they were like, all of these scenes are built out of these triangles, and they flipped the scene that looked like just a bunch of noise. And they were like, this isn't noise. Every one of these little dots is a triangle basically. And some of the triangles are as tiny as pixels, which is crazy and lets you do like super fine work on stuff. Like they pointed to a rock and they were like, this rock has like 2 million triangles in it or something. And then they were like, look at this statue. This statue has like 1 billion triangles in it. And then they walked into a room and there were like 50 of those statues. And they were like, take a look at this. There's 50 of these statues now. Think about how many triangles that is. And Something else with their technology was like it makes like it reduces pop in, like towards the end of that trailer where you're talking about where she jumps around and flies. She opens up onto this cliff face, and in the far distance you can see like a portal light up, and they were like, yeah, this is like not only do the triangles allow us to render stuff closely with like a high degree of fidelity, but they allow us to render like far out expanses with fidelity as well. Something to do with like tessellation or something. But I thought it looked really, really good. It like made me super pumped and it was all running on, they claimed that everything we saw was running on a PlayStation 5 or like some sort of beta hardware for PlayStation 5.
Yeah, and I think to a degree, some of that is the kind of thing you almost need a developer there to be like, look, this is how complicated this is and why this new technology is making this possible. Because there were a lot of people that were sort of making fun of Microsoft and like all the stuff they showed off there. And I think a lot of it is because it's going to be hard for them to show trailers that are, I don't know, convincing of like, oh, you need this next gen hardware, because it's a lot of like under the hood stuff that does not necessarily come across in a trailer. And so it was helpful to frame it in this way, where you have the people from Unreal Engine 5 actually talking about like some of the details about it, rather than just like, here's a trailer for something that looks like it could be running on old hardware, you know?
Yeah, it made me super excited for what's to come, because I like Unreal. I know that Unity has been coming up as like, hey, Unity's free and just like do whatever, and it's totally cool. But Unreal is also just like, Unity is great, but the fidelity of Unreal stuff is just like crazy sometimes. Like if a AAA studio uses Unreal and cranks it up to like 11, you get like stuff on current gen that gets close to being photorealistic. So like, I guess, and also I read that this Unreal Engine 5 isn't coming out until 2021. So stuff's being built in it right now, but I don't know that we're going to see a game that utilizes it for a little bit of time. But it's exciting to just like see where the industry is going.
Yeah. Didn't they also say that Unreal Engine 4 was now like free to developers, and that they were not going to take a chunk of the profits from their game sales until their sales hit like 1 million or something like that?
That's great. Like Unreal. I mean, they have that Fortnite money, so they can just like do whatever. I mean, also the Epic Game Store, which everyone hated, is now just like they had all those, even though people hated them, they did come out swinging with like, hey, guess what, developers, if you put your game on our store, you're going to get a much better revenue share than you would if you got on Steam. Yeah. Which is like a cool thing to do. And now, I mean, they're having this sale right now where they're giving away, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know, maybe like, I mean, I don't love Fortnite, but maybe Epic is like a cool company.
Yeah, I think that's really the takeaway from all of this, is that maybe they're a much better company than, I don't know, some of the other more greedy companies, and they're sort of trying to be less gross and maybe lead the way in that sort of way. Like if they start doing it, maybe other companies will kind of fall in line, which I hope is true.
Yeah. Something else that came out. Have you ever played a Paper Mario game?
I haven't. Well, so earlier this year, I played I didn't finish it, but I played a good chunk of Super Mario RPG on the Super NES Classic.
Oh.
And that game, I really liked that game. And the first 2 Paper Mario games, I think, were sort of spiritual successors to Super Mario RPG. Like they have a bunch of RPG mechanics and all of that. And
what
like,
are you leveling up in like a Super Mario RPG?
You were like, it's kind of pretty akin to any RPG, really. You like go around the map, there are enemies, you knock them out, you get into battle with them, it's like a turn-based battle system, you knock them out, and then you get XP, which makes it so that you have like more health and you deal more damage and stuff like that, and you get companions that run around with you, and as you like, you can just sort of grind areas if you need to. Like if you get to a boss that you can't beat, you just go back and you grind battles with like the minions for a while until you level up. So it's very like classic RPG stuff. I don't think that that's where Paper Mario is anymore. I think the more recent games in that franchise have sort of gone away from that formula to be more of like an action adventure thing, and I think people would like it to go back. And I think the MinMax guys were talking about this game this week, and they said that it, just based on the trailer, it seems like maybe they've taken a half step back in the direction of like RPG stuff, but it's still kind of an action adventure. It's hard to tell, but I mean, it looks good. It looks like it could be fun, but I don't think it's...
I like the art style for sure. Yeah. It's all about origami this time. So there's a lot of interesting, like, folded enemies that you have to take on, it seems like.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know much about the Paper Mario games, but I would love it if they would get more in the vein of Super Mario RPG, because I really like that game.
Well, this is all prelude to what we really came here to talk about, because there was another stream about another game this week that I think you and I are both super jazzed about. And I think, did you tell me that it's coming out on the same day as Paper Mario?
Yeah, I think July 17th. Does that sound right?
I think that is right, yeah. I want you to say it first because I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is coming out July 17th. And I think it's pronounced Tsushima.
Tsushima?
At least that's how they say it in the video, I think.
Okay.
If I recall correctly. We could still be saying it wrong, which is...
Ghosts of Tsushima. Zach, this looks super cool.
It does. And I think a lot of people are drawing comparisons to like Assassin's Creed. And they're sort of joking that they beat the Assassin's Creed franchise to feudal Japan, which is where I think a lot of people would like them to go. And they're exploring different places instead. Yeah, it's both July 17th. But yeah, I love the foliage, the fact that you sort of navigate the map by having the wind sort of as like the trail to your next destination or whatever.
What a cool little detail to just like put everything in the background. Like a thing about like, you know, I played Watch Dogs 2 when it came out, and you play all those games where like you're dropped into an open world, and it always is just like so intrusive to just be like, okay, I need to get to a waypoint. I'll set it on my map, and then like big yellow lines will appear in the world to show me how to get someplace. And this is just like, it's such a genius way to take that out of the equation.
Yeah, it is a very good way to make it so that it's, you know, it's still more immersive, because you are sort of the idea is that you're sort of getting in tune with nature and with animals and all of that. And so the game kind of lets those things assist you rather than big like icons that are popping up and like, go here, you know. So
now I had a question for you, and I wanted your interpretation on this, because it seems to me like, I don't want to say like Paragon and Renegade, but like it does seem like there's a duality in the gameplay where you have to decide how you want to play the game. Do you want to be a samurai, or do you want to go to stealth route? Do you think that's the case, or do you think you're leveling up both things for different situations, or you're just going, you have to choose like, I'm going to go hard stealth, or I'm going to go hard samurai?
I was going to ask you the same question, because it was not clear to me whether you sort of invest in one path and that's like the character you play, and if you want to do like the samurai route the next playthrough, like you have to, you know, commit another playthrough to it, or can you like swap back and forth?
Well, and that was another part of the video, is they were like, hey, you can customize Jin, your guy, with like costumes, and they're not just cosmetic. Like these armors and clothings that you wear and equipment you use have like real world like, what am I trying to say?
Effects?
Like, yeah, real life effects on gameplay. Like supposedly, I mean, they didn't say this, but like probably like you'll be harder to see if you wear something that like the Ghost would wear, like that crazy mask or something.
They did specifically show that while you're wearing the Ghost outfit and you're like sort of attacking at night, that people do legit like get scared at you. Like one guy fell down and was like backing away, like he dropped his weapon. And I assume you could have like left him there, but in the trailer they actually killed that guy.
Which is cool. Like, I mean, I'm definitely going to go to the stealth route because I love stealth games.
I was going to say, I feel like most people will probably go the stealth route just because he looked cooler and it just seems more cool.
I did, like, that does come back to bite you if it's, like, not well designed, though. Because I did in Deus Ex Human Revolutions or whatever it was called, I went full stealth, and then that game still had boss battles where you could not do stealth, and I had not invested any points in like gunplay or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I would hope that they have like interestingly designed boss fights where you can still utilize the things you've been investing in.
And it makes me wonder like what the day-night cycle is like, because they came up to basically it's kind of like clearing a stronghold in either Assassin's Creed or like Far Cry. And they approached during the day and he was wearing the samurai stuff and he just basically walked in and it was like, I'm not scared of you guys. And he took everybody out. And then he was like, all right, now let's do the same thing. But this time at night, we're going to be playing as the Ghost. I was just like, does that mean that you will not attack as the Ghost during the day, but, or the samurai at night? Like, are there sort of strict rules around that? Like I don't know how it works. It was not clear to me, I guess, but
it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, I would say I was at like a 60 or 70% excitement prior to this stream, but now I'm at like a 90 to 95 because also they showed like you can play the game completely in Japanese, which I thought was awesome, and they showed like a cool like black and white film
like
grain, so it looks
mode.
Like an old samurai.
Yeah.
That seems great to me.
If you want this to feel like you're playing in a Kurosawa movie, you just turn on the black and white filter with the Japanese audio and you just play the entire thing that way, which I think could be really interesting.
I'm super excited. This is probably the thing I'm most looking forward to that's coming out next. Like obviously Cyberpunk is going to be
when
crazy,
is that
but that's not coming out until like I feel like maybe September, October, I want to say was the last I heard.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to this game. It was one of my most anticipated games, but I feel like it's been a good long while since we heard anything about it. So I was starting to not really think about it that much. To see all of this stuff, now I'm just like back on board. I'm like, all right, let's do this. But yeah, I definitely like that style of like open world game. A lot of it is very familiar. It's like, you know, you want to stealth your way in, so I'm going to throw the rock over here to distract the guys or whatever. Like, we've done that, I don't know, countless times in games, in other games. So it's not, like, groundbreaking in any way, but I don't know. I don't think I need it to be. You know what I mean?
No, it's such a good mechanic, and that's why I like Far Cry 3 and 4, and to some extent 5, even though I was not super into 5. That's why there's such like compelling games is they give you that awesome loop of, you know, come upon a stronghold, figure out the best way to like minimize people being aware of you and take them down, and then clear the stronghold, and then eventually you get like a world map where you can see all the progress you've made because you like unlock fast travel and like extra gear and stuff. That's exactly what I want from an open world game, is just like clearing out strongholds with, you know, an ever growing assortment of tools and skills that I learn.
Yeah, I really like that as well. I enjoy that style of game, so I'm fine if this is just like the Japanese version of that, you know? Like it takes place in old-timey Japan. What did you think of the combat?
I don't really understand it. Like I understood the ghost stuff, but I didn't understand the samurai stuff because there's like that thing at the bottom that's like 9 gold orbs or whatever that I assume is like maybe stamina. I couldn't really tell how he was spending those. Maybe it's health, but like you could like queue up these things. They almost look like quick time events, but I knew they weren't, where like people are coming at you, you have to parry, and It seems fun. I still don't really understand it, but I'm very interested to learn it.
Yeah, me too. I was confused by the icons on the screen that you were referring to as well. I kind of liked that it was a little bit different in that it was very efficient combat, where it's like, okay, you slash this guy once, he's dead. It's not like, here's a guy in a t-shirt, let me shoot him with like 5 clips to kill him. It probably will have something with the boss battles. You probably will have some of that sort of, but like, it seemed like there's going to be, maybe there's a dodge, maybe there's a counter option, maybe there's attack, which is fairly like, Assassin's Creed stuff, but maybe even a little bit more efficient than that. Like, you're not necessarily trying to memorize combos. You're just like, the style of it, and as long as you can get like the timing down, then you're going to be really good.
Pretty exciting. I don't know what the next, like I said, there's not really a roadmap for like the next anticipated live stream, like what it's going to be, but I'm looking forward to hopefully more in the coming months of just like interesting. I mean, we're so close to next gen console launches. You gotta wonder when we're going to get these big. I think I just heard Xbox has announced some event in July that's going to be like their official Xbox Series X launch, and Halo Infinite is going to be like front and center there. So that's something to look forward to, and we'll definitely talk about that. But I don't know, hopefully June and the last half of May are going to have some interesting things we can see.
Yeah, I don't remember when he said Summer Game Fest, like if he had a roadmap for any of that, but I feel like a lot of these places like Sony and Microsoft are just kind of like, they have their own timetable established at this point. And so they're probably just going to be like, hey, tune in this week for such and such a thing. And I mean, maybe it'll be surprising. So if you like surprises, maybe that'll be cool. But yeah, I do wish there was a more concrete roadmap that we could just like set our calendar to and follow it and know when to be excited about stuff.
So that kind of does it for news, but it's been such a long time since we recorded. We have been playing and watching a ton of stuff.
That's true. Do you want to let's start with Westworld season 3, because I know you said you just finished it. I think it just ended like a week or two ago. So
You're
it's
right,
relatively recent. What did you think of season 3?
I loved it. I loved cyberpunk stuff, and just like that first episode where you're completely in their world, like that criminal app, I thought was a very cool concept that would exist in a future world. Like, you could make a whole video game about that, where just like you have an app and you're basically getting, crimes to do, and there's different like levels of severity, and just like all of the set design. I love with HBO that they give you those like little glimpses in after every episode where they talk about like, well, this is how we made the future cars, and like these are like the crazy areas. Like, we went to Singapore for this because Singapore basically is the future right now, and everything just looks insane there. I liked everything about it. The story, there's like, I'm trying to think. I felt like there was one thing where I was not super into the direction they were taking it, but I can't even remember. All in all, I really, really liked it. Like, the first season of that show was amazing. The second season was just fine. I mean, it was good, but it got a little bit too weird, and I did not like the disjointed memories that Bernard was having. That was too complicated. Yeah. This season, though, I feel like was super cool, and I was on board like from minute one. What about you?
I loved the first season. I think that was like, it was basically a perfect season. They could have just ended it there and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Season 2 was kind of a convoluted mess that I still don't know if I know everything that happened. Season 3, I don't know. It was weird because I feel like they had sort of set themselves up to where Dolores really wasn't that likable anymore. Like, she had kind of become the villain. And then like, it felt like at one point during the season, it was in the latter half, she just like hard pivots and is suddenly like the person you're supposed to root for, when like a few episodes ago, she's just like this sort of vengeful murder bot almost. And I'm just like, I mean, they could have handled that a little bit more subtly than they did.
And I didn't really understand. It seemed like in the second season they were implying that like her AI had meshed with like whatever character was that like super murderous one, and I wasn't even sure if she was Dolores anymore, but I guess she is.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually... So one of the elements I did like about it that I thought was pretty thought-provoking was the idea that... So all the bots, basically, other than like Maeve and Bernarnold, are all basically Dolores. She has like made a bunch of new bodies that look like people we know from previous seasons, but she's sort of installed herself into them. But because we know like human experience sort of changes or alters people, the idea that even though they originated from the same person, over time they become these different individuals to a point where they might even become antagonistic towards each other. So you have I forget the name of the actress. She's in Thor Ragnarok.
Therese? No, what is it?
Tessa Thompson.
I know who you're talking about. Tessa Thompson.
Yeah. So like there comes a point where, due to the experiences she's having with her family, she kind of like, she's still Dolores, or started out as Dolores, but she's now like, actually we should say spoilers. It's too late, but
too late for that.
But anyway, she's like become her own person in such a way that even though she originated as Dolores, her desires and pursuits no longer align with original Dolores. So I thought that was really interesting, something kind of thought-provoking, that it doesn't really matter like where they started, they can also like sort of have their own life. And I think that was something that was interesting, but also a little bit, it was a little bit what's the word, it's like a mistake almost, where the whole idea is that Dolores is sort of secretly fighting for humanity's free will, because I guess another interesting concept throughout the show is the idea that humans are not like, they think they have free will, but there are so many sort of outside forces, some of them technological, that sort of force people down these paths. And so even though they think they have free will, their life is in some ways sort of predetermined anyway. Which is interesting to kind of think about and try to wrap your head around. But at the same time, like if Dolores is the person who is sort of supposed to be the freedom fighter for that, to also have her trying to force other people to do her bidding and then getting mad when they are showing signs of free will is just like, it's a little bit, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but it just seemed off a little bit to me. But I've seen like some negative reviews. I think overall I liked it as well.
I did too.
But yeah, I've seen some negative reviews. I think a lot of people think Aaron Paul was miscast.
Oh, really? I liked him.
Yeah, I liked him too. So I'm not sure where... I didn't want to read all the way because I didn't want to be like, nah, I disagree with you. But yeah, they seem to not like Aaron Paul in the show. And I agree that some things are a little convoluted, and I'm not quite sure why it seemed like they hard pivoted so quickly on like Dolores. Because I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's as good as the first season by any means. And I think for at least the first half of the season, I did not know who to root for. And not in like a Game of Thrones sort of way where I'm like, who do I want to die here because I like both characters? It was more like, who do I root for because I don't really like any of these characters?
Yeah.
So I struggled with it for the first half. I think it got better as it went on though.
Yeah, and just that world that they create, like just all the beautiful architecture and like interesting uses of technology, even like that guy, that like football player guy who was a character
Lynch.
in the season.
Yeah, that was awesome that he was in that show.
His suit is just like so cool, where it
it's like a mood ring,
has all those
but
like
it's a t-shirt.
Exactly, yeah, it's like a mood ring, but it has like it's basically like an acrostic kind of. I thought that was very cool too.
Yeah, I did like some of the imaginative ways they sort of created future tech that's sort of based on what we currently have, but like futurized.
Speaking of future tech and futurization, something I haven't watched, but you have been watching, is that Upload show, and I wanted your opinion on it.
I mostly liked it. There was some stuff I didn't love about it. I think the first episode actually was like bad. I think it's a bad first episode. But if you can kind of like stick through it, the show gets better because it's kind of concept heavy. So basically the idea is that if you are, it's familiar to anybody who watches a lot of sci-fi or like knows sci-fi stories, but basically like, if you're gonna die, would you choose to sort of upload your consciousness into a computer so that you could live forever, sort of? But like the concept is a little bit underdeveloped because like even the trailer shows they kind of make a point that first episode where it's like the guy gets in a car accident because his autopilot car autopilots him into another car, and so there's like this crazy accident, and he is supposed to be dying, but he doesn't act like he's dying at all, which is a little weird to me. But they have to make this snap decision, like, do you want to go to the ER and try to pull through, but if you do that you might die, and then if you die you're gone for good, or do you want to go straight to upload, don't risk it, just send your consciousness to the afterlife, this virtual afterlife, and live forever. And so he makes this sort of snap decision to go for it and to upload his consciousness and live forever. But then later, when he's in this virtual afterlife, he meets this kid who's like, yeah, the way I died was I fell into the Grand Canyon. And I'm just like, that doesn't, like, how would he have gotten upload? Wouldn't he have died immediately? Like, so it doesn't seem like they really thought through all of the...
It seemed very comedic based on the trailers. Like, it was leaning more into the comedic than the, like, what if portion of it.
It definitely does. That's a good observation. I think it's better as a drama than a comedy. Because I don't think a lot of the comedy was all that funny. Some of it is. And a lot of the stuff that does work is the way they kind of play with elements of technology today. So like they kind of have their own version of like in-app purchases in the afterlife, which is, you know, them trying to, I don't want to make it sound bad, like, but be relevant, you know what I mean? Where they're trying to have all of these different elements to it. Like they have that. There's somebody has like vape lung. So they're kind of like talking about vaping or whatever. And so there are like little elements like that where it's like, I don't know, you're trying to almost wink, nudge, like, see, like, we know all of these concepts that are happening. They're like sort of 2019, 2020 buzzwords, but they don't do a lot with them. And some of them are kind of funny, but some of them are not.
I have a prediction.
Okay.
Has this been renewed for a second season?
Not that I know of, not yet.
I predict in the final episode, he realizes that he actually did pull through. After they uploaded him, they also took him to the ER, and so now there's 2 copies of him.
Well, if you watch the first episode, you will know that that's impossible.
Okay.
Because the way they do the upload is that they basically laser off your head.
Oh.
And there's also like I forget, it's like the second or third episode, and they're talking about, well, they're also trying to develop the technology to sort of reinsert a consciousness into a human body. And they actually have Creed Bratton in that episode, and he's there, and they try it on him, and it's like televised, and he's like, it works. I'm like awake. I'm back in my human body, and then his like head explodes or whatever. Like, yeah, it doesn't work yet. So yeah, I guess that's not possible. Also, but they also do have like, there's sort of a mystery that sort of forms like 3 episodes in and becomes like sort of this underlying thing that sort of sticks with it the rest of the season. But the main thing is sort of, they have a very Jim Pam style romance that brews, where there's sort of almost a love triangle where one of them is like dating this person who's obviously wrong for them. So his I guess the way it works is there's this corporation that like built the afterlife or whatever. They have these engineers or techs that are like their angels that sort of the people in the virtual world can call to them and they'll like help them. They're like sort of a customer service rep. And the main girl character, that I don't remember her name, sort of starts falling for this guy. And so there's sort of the Jim Pam thing where he is dating this girl who in the real world who's wrong for him. She's more right for him, obviously. But on top of that, you have this element of should someone in real life date a virtual person? So there's that element to it as well.
This is getting more interesting to me. It sounds like almost a little bit like the problem with the Orville, where like when the Orville is trying to be funny, it's like it's very not
cringy
good.
And not good.
Exactly. But then when they lean into just being a TNG clone and there's no comedy, then it's like great. And it kind of sounds like that's this where you like when they try to make jokes, it's not as good, but they're doing such interesting high concept stuff that it gets more interesting when they sort of leave the jokes behind.
Yes, that is exactly how I would describe this show. Unless you like fart jokes and you think dancing just in general is funny, they seem to try that a lot. I did not find a lot of the comedy worked. But when it was being a drama or sticking to some of the like sci-fi things it was trying to do, like just sort of exploring some of those sci-fi elements, I thought it worked really well. So
would you recommend it?
Yeah, you just have to like that first episode was really bad. Like I almost didn't finish it because I thought it was just dumb. And once I had made it a couple of episodes in, I started liking it. And by the end of it, I was like, okay, I would watch a season 2 of this.
Is that like mystery you said develops? Is it an interesting mystery or did you kind of guess what was going to happen?
It's not solved by the end. So for sure they left it open for a season 2. So it's an interesting mystery that, again, there's more room for them to sort of explore that going forward.
I might actually watch this now.
The main actors I liked as well, like the angel girl that I was referencing, I forget what her name is. I thought she was really charming throughout the entire series. The guy, I've not seen these two actors in anything before. He took a little more time to warm up to because he was kind of annoying at first, but so it's worth giving a shot. If you have Amazon Prime already. I don't think I would subscribe necessarily for it, but if you already have Amazon Prime, then give it a shot.
Man, remember when they made all those acquisitions and then just like nothing, like they bought the rights to make and they were like in development. They had a Ringworld show and like a Snowcraft show. And I haven't heard word one about either of those.
Yeah, that.
Weren't they also making a Lord of the Rings one?
I think they are.
They
are actually working on a Lord of the Rings show. It may be a long ways out still, but I haven't heard anything about that in a long time as well. I know they were working on it, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Amazon Prime anymore. But I will say, like, I like Greg Daniels because he did like The American Office and Parks and Rec, and he worked on one other show that I thought was good, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to give this show a chance because I was like, I like Greg Daniels' other stuff, so maybe this will be good too.
Maybe I'll watch this. You've been watching Red Dwarf?
Yeah, have you seen Red Dwarf before?
I love Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I'm like one of the last to the party on this, but Red Dwarf, you have to like sub to BritBox to watch it because it's like not streaming anywhere. But you can do that through Amazon Prime, and so I like marathoned the entire series.
Now I stopped, I think by like series 4 or 5 because I think it started to get too crazy for me because they like don't like ever like the whole crew comes back at some point and they I don't know, that to me was just like I liked it when it was just the 4 or 5 of them just like chilling out and weird stuff would happen every week, and when it got to be more of like a series where like there were episode by episode plot points, I was just like this isn't I think what I want.
That was just in one season, so they start doing this thing like the mid to later seasons where like the whole season sort of has this interesting element to it that they kind of stick with. Like one season they go out on Starbug and then Red Dwarf gets like stolen, and so they're trying to, the entire season they're trying to track it down.
That season I think I have seen.
And then there's the one that you're talking about where these like nanobots they use to rebuild Red Dwarf also like revives the crew. And that is like there for a season, and then it goes back to just being them again after that. They also do a season that I think most people did not like because it didn't feel very much like classic Red Dwarf, where it's like the Blade Runner season where they're basically doing a parody of Blade Runner, but
that sounds great.
I don't know.
What do
it
you
didn't
mean?
feel like Red Dwarf very much, so I get why people didn't like it as well.
What do you mean?
But then
like,
after that,
that sounds really good to me.
I mean, I was fine with it, but I've looked up like on Reddit the subreddit for Red Dwarf, and people seem to not be into that season of the show. But yeah, I mean, it was a little bit more dramatic maybe, and a little less comedy is maybe the reason for that. Plus, like, they go back to Earth, so they're not really aboard the Red Dwarf. So that's probably why it just doesn't feel very much like the show. But other than that, I kind of enjoyed it.
They're still making seasons of it, aren't they?
Yeah, I watched the latest season not that long ago, actually.
How was that?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think it's really funny. I like Crichton, the android, a lot. And I don't know, I find them all pretty funny. So I enjoyed it. I liked the series to the point where I like, once I finished it, I started watching it again.
A very catchy theme song.
It is a very catchy theme song.
Maybe I should... Would I miss anything if I skipped that season where everyone comes back?
I don't think so.
Because I think I watched like the first 2 episodes of that season, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm interested in this anymore.
Really? I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. Like, they're always kind of experimenting and doing different things with the show. So I didn't mind that for one season they had like a full crew aboard the Red Dwarf. And then
this was also like 10 years ago, so maybe I will take a look at it again.
Yeah, it's worth going back to if you haven't watched the seasons after that. Because like I said, I like that they try different things with it. And I didn't mind that there was a full crew to that season, especially since it didn't become like the new norm for every season after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Tell me about Scrap Mechanic.
This was a game... Man, it was a long time ago, but me and my friend were looking for something to play online together, and this came out in like alpha or beta, like I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, and we were like, all right, let's check this out. And it's basically, it drops you into this world, at least the alpha did, and it was there wasn't like a survival or anything, it was just like creative mode, and you could build vehicles, and you had thrusters. It was kind of like Gary's mod a little bit, where you could just like put wheels on things and create interesting devices. A little bit like that Besiege game, actually, but you were actually a person in the world and you got to like ride around. Well, like 3 weeks ago or something, they did an update. I think the first update in like years, and they were like, guess what? We're still developing this game. And now there's a survival mode with like... you can drop in and play with friends and, get materials and craft things and make bases, and there's monsters. And so we checked it out, and it's very rough around the edges, and there's no tutorials. And to play with people online, there's no thing in the menu about it. You just have to both be playing the game and then do like Shift Tab and open up the Steam overlay, and then right-click someone's name and click Invite to Play. There's nothing like in the game that lets you do that. But I mean, and it's not super well optimized. Like, it was a little jittery. I don't know how their netcode is, but I mean, it's fun to make little vehicles and stuff. I think it's something to check out. Maybe give it another 6 months in development, and it might be a little bit more user friendly. But it was weird because it's just something I had not thought about in forever. I bought it for like $2 or something like 4 years ago, and now it has this whole survival thing. And I found out about it because this guy I watch, he's like a PUBG streamer, this guy Choco Taco, he's been playing just like more other random games, and he loaded this up and he's like super into it. He's been streaming a bunch of Scrap Mechanic, and I watched him play and I was like, man, I totally own this game. I should check this out. And it's pretty fun. It's fun to just like mess around and like build a car and just like drive into things and, you know, fight the robots and whatnot. But it's pretty interesting.
Interesting.
And then I also just slammed through the Final Fantasy VII remake.
I was going to ask you if you'd finished it. I have not finished it.
You know, they said it was like a 35-hour experience, and I was like right at like 36 hours when I finished.
I am currently at the part where you meet, it's after you meet Aerith and you're like running around doing stuff for the kids at that like little school area. Mm-hmm. And like you go get flowers or whatever. I'm like at the tail end of that part.
You know what's crazy is you are like halfway through the game right now.
Okay, so I'm only halfway was what I was
I think I'm like chapter 8, and I think there's 19 chapters.
Oh, is there? I thought there was less than that.
It's crazy because like you feel like, I mean, in the original game, when you find Aerith, you're getting to the tail end of Midgar. Like she gets kidnapped and then you go up to Shinra Tower or whatever. But man, there's a ton of stuff in this game. So you haven't even gotten to Wall Market yet.
Oh, actually, now that you say that, I haven't played it in like a week and a half because I've been busy doing other things. But I just got to the part where there's that cutscene where what's her name is in the back of that. Yeah, she's in the back of that vehicle that's like driving away, and you like hop on and like talk to her, and she's like, "I'll be fine" or whatever. Like that was the last cutscene that I remember.
Now you never played the original, did you?
I did not. No.
Man, it might be worth. I think the original on Steam and also on Switch is only like $5 sometimes, especially during like sales. I would be very interested to watch you play the Midgar scene, or like the Midgar part in the original, because it goes by so fast, but I feel like you'll recognize so many things.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I keep wanting to watch like a Let's Play of Final Fantasy VII, like the original, and just watch the Midgar part just to be like, okay, I see, you know, where this was and where that was, and just see how different things are. But yeah, no, I'm loving just how sort of open worldy it feels, and just the environments look amazing in this remake. Like, I don't know, like I know you're in like the slums at the beginning, so it's not supposed to be like a cool place that you would want to go visit, but I'm just like what if you went outside and you looked up and there was just this like giant tower of like stuff out there? I don't know, it looks like it's a really cool looking environment.
And I initially was not super on board with the combat, but once I got into a groove and I figured out what I was doing, especially towards the end where you have like 3 people in your party and they all have materia, and you can kind of just like jump in between people, and a couple of them have like ATB boost materia. I was like really into the combat, except for there was like one boss that I hated, and I had to have 2 characters that I didn't have a ton of materia on. And it was just a real pain, and I almost stopped playing, but I guess I'll be interested to see when you get to that part. But
did you? I was going to ask if you turned the difficulty down or not.
I should have done that. I should have just, you know, called it quits and put it on easy, but it only took me like 3 times to beat it. It was just like, man, it took forever to beat. But
I was going to say, I don't know if you'll laugh at me for it, but I got to a point where there was this boss where I'd like died 2 or 3 times on it. And I was like, all right, I don't have enough time to invest in this to like have this happen to me if I want to continue progressing. So I did flip it down to easy. And now I'm just boss? Like, I don't worry at all. Was it? I forget which one it was. Was it the Airbuster? Does that sound right?
Ah, the Airbuster.
Or maybe it was the one before that. There was just this machine that was like flying at me, and like no matter which character I switched to, it would just like immediately fly to me and just like knock me into a corner and kill me. And then I would switch to a different one, and they're like a melee character. So I would go try to do a melee attack, and like I couldn't. There was no opening to attack because they were just constantly attacking. And so the only thing I could do was block. And so I was just like, I'm not even enjoying this anymore. So I just like flipped it down to easy, and I was like, oh, now I feel probably how I'm supposed to at this point, where I'm just like, I'm this cool sword guy.
Yeah, man. I loved it. I want to see more. What a world it would be if Square this summer was like, hey, we're already like kind of developing the next one. You don't have to wait a super long time. I don't think that's going to be the case, but man, I just wanted more when I finished it, because like the New Game Plus is basically just like, hey, do you want to go to a different chapter and like finish up everything you didn't finish up? And I would love to just continue, because like, I mean, I won't spoil anything from the ending. We can talk about it maybe when you finish it, but I was like raring to go for more when we finished up, and unfortunately we're gonna have to wait a little bit of time for that.
Yeah, and this leads me to another question. Like, how do you feel about these, like, sort of from the ground up style remakes of games? Like, are you pro this? Because I am. Like,
yeah, I'm pretty pro it, I have to say.
Because, like, I know Nintendo's been doing these remakes of, like, old games, like they did with Zelda, Link's Awakening, and they did with, like, the original Pokemon game. And I thought that was cool, too, to have it, like, sort of remade and sort of a more they feel like the classic games, but like done in a more modern way for like a modern audience.
Yeah.
And so there's that, but there's also this where it's just sort of like a complete remake from the ground up, where it feels almost like a different game entirely. And that's what made, like, earlier when we were talking about rumors for Mass Effect Remastered, I was like, I almost, rather than a remaster of that series, I wouldn't mind, instead of them even making Mass Effect 4 or 5 or whatever, what if they just did Mass Effect Remake trilogy, where
that would be
got
amazing.
rid of,
and then
like,
they could fix the ending.
Yeah, you fix everything. Like, the first game has like those side planets that you go to and you drive the Mako, and it's terrible.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
Like, the combat's not very good. It's like super inconsistent across the series. Like, you have like a cooldown on your weapons in the first game, and you're reloading later, and like inventory management's not that great. Like, they could smooth out all of that stuff and like get rid of like the planet scanning and all that. Just like do a complete remake where you don't necessarily completely redo the story all the way through, but like you stay kind of true to most of that stuff, but maybe
definitely
you do
fix the last game.
Well, I don't hate the last game as much as you or a lot of other people do, but yeah, they could redo some of that ending to like make that less.
Not even that, but just like, I mean, you've extolled the virtues of all the great DLC for the last game, but all of it just seems so weird when Earth is just being like firebombed constantly, like 24/7, and you're just like chilling out on the Citadel,
having
like
a party on the Citadel.
Yeah, like that seems crazy to me. Fix that where it's like maybe they're not directly attacking Earth constantly, and you have a little bit of downtime to be like, oh, maybe all the Reapers are not here yet, you know?
Yeah, they could do that as well, where maybe they're just like sending advanced like forces, so it's not like such a dire situation where you're like, if I don't act now, everybody's dead.
Yeah,
they could do it in a way where it was less like, okay, like I have time to have a little party on the Citadel and not worry that everyone back home is dying. So I mean, that's true too. So that's why I think I would almost rather them like halt whatever the next Mass Effect was going to be, and don't even do a remastered version of the trilogy. Just like do a Final Fantasy VII style remake from the ground up, beginning to end of the trilogy. And just, but I also think there are like purists that would hate that idea.
I think that's a great idea, though.
I mean, plus it would be, rather than just like up-resed like graphics and textures and all of that, it would be like legit next-gen graphics.
Next-gen graphics and like new mechanics, and just like, I don't know, I feel like that would be such a cool thing. I would love just like a remake of the first Mass Effect. It just has to be the first one, just to see, and I'm sure it would sell like crazy, and they'd, you know, queue up to do the next one. But I feel like even just as an experiment, remaking the first one with like modern mechanics and like maybe slight tweaks to the story it would sell like gangbusters.
I'm sure it would. Yeah. And plus, like, they get a lot of flack for the ending of Mass Effect 3 for not,
it was bad.
For like an animation that is basically the same. But the thing is, it ends in such a way that depending on what you choose, like they would almost have to make 3 different games as a sequel to that, depending on which one you chose.
They don't need to. They can still do that nonsense Andromeda stuff where you're just like, oh, everyone is like in a different galaxy now, so who knows what's going on in the Milky Way. As like a sequel type thing, they just need to like all of the relays blowing up is such a dumb idea.
Well, so this is why this is why I think you hate it and you shouldn't, because you don't really know the extended cut ending. I think everybody that still hates it are the ones that just ignored the extended cut because they were so too mad to go back to be bothered to go watch that, because they very clearly say that they were damaged but not destroyed, and that they could be fixed.
I feel like that's backpedaling.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But
I feel like the original one happened and like the large consensus was like, hey, this is insane. Like, because there was that other Mass Effect. There's a whole DLC where a Mass Effect relay explodes and it's threatening like an entire solar system.
Yeah, which is why I don't think they actually did it like explode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then the entire universe would have been blown up.
I also read this thing like, because there was an insane amount of people hanging around Earth when the Earth relay went down, because like that was the final stand. So like all of the Turian forces and like everybody had ships hanging around Earth, and now there's no way to get out of that solar system. So you're basically just, there's going to be overcrowding. It's just like Earth is going to be an insane melting pot where everyone needs to eat and there's not enough food.
Well, yeah, that's why, again, I say they said that they didn't get destroyed because, again, it would have probably wiped out everybody there anyway if it had. So they were just damaged but repairable. And there's like in that extended cutscene, I think one of the endings shows like whichever one you end up like synchronizing with like synthetic and non-synthetic life forms or whatever, you like team up with the Reapers basically, and they like sort of share all of their knowledge because they're all built off of like the knowledge and information gathered from all the different civilizations that they've destroyed along like the timeline or whatever. And so that you sort of work with them, and it's shown where they're like they're fixing one of the mass relays.
A remake is a great idea. And that's like, I don't know, but like the whole thing about the Reapers is like, oh yeah, humans and robots can't coexist, so we gotta keep doing this.
I think that's the one like legit thing that they need to alter if they were to do a remake, is like that line reads so false based on the fact that I have just created peace between the Geth and the Quarians.
Yeah. Like the Geth aren't an issue anymore because you've brokered this huge peace treaty, and then the Reapers come in, they're like, no, we don't know about that. This is what has to happen.
We're gonna not even mention it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that point. I don't think there's any way around that point, unless you say something like, well, you know, that peace you think you brought between the Geth and the Quarians won't last or whatever, which, like, whatever, but we did just do this thing that you said was impossible. So yeah, that for sure is like the biggest point against the ending to Mass Effect 3 that I won't even try to defend against.
Speaking of old games, though, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but GTA 5 is free right now.
Did you get it? Did you download it?
I purchased it I acquired it on Epic Game Store, but I paused the installation because we started recording. But yeah, I played it on 360. So like the first person mode wasn't even a
It wasn't
thing.
a
Like
thing.
I've never played current gen GTA 5, so I loaded it up on my computer, and I'm gonna maybe check it out tonight and see if because I've heard the online component is insane now.
Oh yeah, the fact that that's still going and like still getting updates and support is crazy to me.
So we'll see how that goes. That's what I'll be doing tonight.
I got it as well. I haven't downloaded it yet, so I'm not sure. I need to get back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I don't know if I'm going to play it just yet. But like you, I played it on 360, and it's been a long time. So I was kind of, I don't know. I like the GTA style games, so
Yeah,
I would be interested in jumping back in and trying it again.
we could maybe do a video on the multiplayer and see how much it's changed.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
But I think that about wraps it up for this week.
It does. Hopefully we get back into a regular schedule. Things have been crazy lately, not just because of the whole pandemic situation, but also like I've changed jobs, and so my schedule is really different now from what it used to be. And you have been in school and work, and so I
It's
think
true.
you're just getting out for summer though, right?
I have one more class that I am doing in June, but then I'm done with school.
Oh, so you'll have time coming up.
True. Very true.
Very cool. So yeah, hopefully we get back into it. I know we like were silent for like months on end there for a while. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I did just recently start publishing like reviews and stuff on StarsideCafe.com. I would like to start doing some videos again. It's been a while since I did those. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still working through like trying to find stuff like times that work with my new schedule. So we'll see how things go, but hopefully we can at least get back to doing the podcast on a weekly basis.
For sure, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, follow us on our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe, and go check out our website at starsidecafe.com. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Well, hold on, Zach. I have some parting wisdom.
It's been so long that I forgot that we usually, before we say goodbye, I ask you for some words of wisdom.
And I have a couple of them. I have a non-recommendation and 2 recommendations because it's been a little bit of time, so they've built up.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Kingdom of Heaven?
I have not. That's the Orlando Bloom one, right?
That's right. I watched the director's cut last night. It's 193 minutes.
Wow.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's over 3 hours?
Yes.
Wow.
There's an intermission. It comes up on screen and says intermission at one point.
So your recommendation is do not watch Kingdom of Heaven.
It's not great, I have to say. It's not one of Ridley Scott's greatest things. Something it is great, though, a recommendation I do have for you. My brother got me, it was my birthday recently, and he got me the Taco Bell take-home kit, which is a thing you can order on the Taco Bell app now, where they just give you enough food for like 5 people, but they put it in like, you know, separate tubs or whatever, and then you bring it home and you just like make tacos for yourself.
Wow, I have not heard of this.
It's pretty cool. It's like $25, and they give you like a bunch of shells, a bunch of tortillas, a thing of cheese, 2 things of meat, like a thing of nacho cheese, some sour cream, tomatoes, lettuce, and like a giant bag of chips, and you just like take it home, and then you have like a little taco bar.
That sounds cool.
I highly recommend it if you're more than 2 people, because it is way too much food for 2 people. And then finally, actually, you know what? I'm going to save this for next week because it's an interesting thing. I want to talk more about it. But I think that will do it for us this week.
I can give you something, since you were talking about something you got for your birthday. I got for my birthday this year an AeroPress coffee maker.
Ooh, what is that?
So it's a little bit akin to doing like a French press, where you put the grounds into this like tube basically, and then you fill it up with hot water, and then you I do the inverted method, where you put the cup on top and then you flip the whole thing over, and then you press there's like a plunger on it, and you press it down to like push the coffee out into your cup. And it makes very good coffee. And so because of that, I have also gotten into like good like fresh coffee from like local roasters, basically, where they will, instead of just going to the grocery store and picking up coffee that is like from Starbucks or whatever that's been like sitting on a shelf for like months on end or whatever, these local roasters will roast it fresh and send it to you with like the date they actually roasted it on there, so you know it's actually fresh. And there is an enormous difference in taste when you try these like actually fresh coffees. Like, it's more expensive, but it tastes so much better. And a lot of them are like very fruity, to the point where I was like, I didn't even know coffee could taste like this. So it's been like mind blowing and pretty amazing. And so I've gotten very into that recently. And so yeah, I highly recommend not just the AeroPress as a coffee maker, but also try to find like a local roaster to like buy coffee from instead of buying Starbucks.
A good tip.
That's all I've got.
All right, well, we'll catch you guys next week. Hopefully there will be some more Summer of Games stuff that come out this week, and we'll be able to talk about it.
Hopefully. Catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.